I'm delighted that on today's podcast, we're joined by a guest, and that guest is Martin Spiller. Martin and I have known each other quite a long time through our work at Cranfield University Business School. And Martin's one of those really annoying people who's good at everything he does. So he qualified as a barrister, he qualified as an accountant, he's a serial entrepreneur with a number of successful businesses behind him. And his latest venture is called Oakmere Partners. And Oakmere, I understand, is about getting extra value and growth out of owner-managed businesses. So if you're an owner-manager with a business and you're struggling to see how you might take it forward, Martin might be the chap you need to speak to. Martin's here to talk with us today about how we use AI in finance and the implications of AI in finance departments and how businesses might use it, not use it, and some of the things that he's seen as we've gone about that. So, Martin, over to you. What's your observations overall about the way businesses are using AI in finance at the moment?
Well, I mean, a lot of businesses have been using it, Jonathan, without knowing it. So if you use QuickBooks or Xero or any of the packages, you've been using machine learning when it says, do you want me to create a rule for this expense or this line item or matching invoices and things? So it's already been there. And I think it's really good at that, Jonathan. The way I look at it is it's great at automating dull stuff, but it's not very good at the thinking bit. So I've used a bunch of the forecasting tools that they've used, and I have to say they might be good for public companies that have got 20 years worth of fairly standardized growth. But for SMEs that are subject to the whims and kind of a big client not paying you will affect your cash flow, that the forecasting tools are not particularly useful. So for me, I think there's a massive opportunity for businesses. And if you don't embrace AI, you're going to be at your peril. But I think it has to be used carefully in finance because it's not going to replace, I don't think it's not going to replace a CFO or a strategic thinking when it comes to finance.
So if you're an owner manager, what would you say? How would you validate what you're getting from the AI? How do you know when to use it and when not to?
So I think for me, Jonathan, firstly, you have to check. There's lots of cases that I've been involved in where you go back and even the basic dull stuff has been done wrong because somebody's ticked it wrong. And therefore not recording line items in the right place gives you a false set of numbers. And what I've seen with SMEs in finance is there's a lot of kind of looking at turnover. So that's kind of turnover is a vanity, profit is sanity, but we don't really move away from the profit and loss account because that's easy to see. Actually, though, you need to look at your debtors, for example. Are you getting paid? You need to look, cash is the king for most SMEs. And, businesses go bust being profitable because they run out of cash because you can't pay people in bits of profit. And so I think for me, Jonathan, if you rely on AI without doing any checking, so even if it's just once a quarter, going in and having a detailed look, what we're seeing is a lot of SMEs just look at the turnover, look at the bottom line, and if everything looks all right, they carry on, but they're not actually looking behind the detail. And I think what they need to do is recognize the limitations of AI, but also the limitations of how you program the AI, because that's, a lot of people talk to AI, but they don't think about like the prompting structure to get the information out that you want. So I think you need to use it thoughtfully, because if you don't, then you're going to get left behind. But I think you need to be careful about it handing over all power. And I think that goes for a lot of things, but in finance, it's definitely, you need to still maintain a focus. But it can cut through all of the professional nonsense and the words the professionals use to keep themselves in jobs.
As you say, I've seen if you look at some of the common finance tools like Xero and QuickBooks, when you use those, you've seen over the last few years, some of those like the expense management modules now where you can take a picture of your receipt and it processes it, knows all about it, and VAT returns. So we've seen lots of things, as you say, that we might not even know have been AI driven, but they are. From your point of view, where are the, if you like, the low hanging fruit then in finance departments? If I'm a growing business turning 5-10 million, where are the kind of AI low hanging fruit things that we can experiment with, or we would encourage people to go and look at? Any thoughts on that?
Probably keeping it short, Jonathan, because it's a topic we could probably talk about for about 4 days. But in the really low hanging fruit, number one is facilitating your finance teams to do proper analysis. So if they free up the time from doing if you set it up properly and you put in checks in place, then you can use that admin time that you're saving to focus on some of the thought, even if it was just investigating your debtor book to see who hasn't paid you quickly or who's still outstanding, or for example, in my old giftware company, stock, which is our slow moving stock, and what we're going to do about it. So one is using the time effectively, and the second is maybe helping your more junior staff to be more efficient and understanding what they're doing by explaining things to them. So it's a great tool to have. We've talked about this before, I'm sure, and I know you have on your podcast, but it's a great thought person to sit aside and explain things that you don't ordinarily explain. So, for example, looking at what are your critical success factors, and then what are the KPIs that monitor them? We've got this problem in the UK, or probably in the world, of KPIitis, using KPIs that don't match anything. But if you think about them, then the AI can help you produce them. You don't have to have a business degree or an accounting qualification to work them out, because the AI can help you with all of that kind of grunt work. It's a great tool for getting grunt work, but you need to understand what it's showing.
So let me understand how you go about that. So you would feed the AI some information about the company, you would feed it the financials, and you might ask the AI, say, okay, what would be good KPIs for this business? I've told you all about my business. You've seen the numbers. What would you, Mr. API, do as what KPIs would you set? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, before that, Jonathan, the CSFs is where I start. What are the critical things you have to do differently? And then you can ask the AI, what would be good KPIs to monitor things? So, for example, I don't know, if you're a management consultancy, the usual things are you need to keep the management consultants out there working, right? So you therefore need to look at how to attract time management. We know that consultants don't monitor their time very carefully. AI can help you by analyzing all of your consultants and things. But you could talk to it about what makes your business different, and then ask for KPIs, and then ask how you calculate them. You don't need to have finance director to do that. So it can really upskill non-financiers and help you run the business using that time that you've, or help your finance team to help you by doing that sort of stuff. So for me, it's a great thought assistant tool that helps you get. So for example, if you don't know what return on capital employed is or how to calculate it, you can ask it, and then you can feed it your data and it can work it out. So it can do a lot of the stuff that used to put people off. But the thing that I'm saying, and this is where I think you need to be careful, it doesn't replace that idea of understanding what drives your business properly. That bit, I don't think it can do. And I think any attempt to do that is sending you down a kind of mediocrity factor, because AI is going to just aggregate all of the knowledge that it has, either from you or from the web and the ether, into not really understanding your business. It can help, and it can do the calculations, and it can educate you, but it doesn't place.
What I heard there as well then, Martin, is if you are, and you and I both met these kind of guys, they're very, very good. They're running a business. It's all doing really well, but they will be the first people to say, I don't really understand the finance. I have somebody who does that for me. So if you're that kind of owner manager, you're able to sit down with the AI and say, can you just explain to me what return on capital employed is? And can you explain that in terms I would understand? So you can use it to educate yourself so that you understand your finances better than maybe you do at the moment. And you can have a better conversation with your finance people because you understand the world they're living. That's one of the things we could potentially do with it, right? Do I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, if I give slight tangential, Jonathan, we banned Latin from the law in about the 1600s, and then we rebanned it again under the civil procedure rules in 1998 or whenever they were launched. And yet the court still use Latin. Well, the same goes on with accountants. And a lot of people are scared to ask them because they think they look stupid. Well, AI is your friend, and it can be asked any question you want because it's not judging. And I think it's a bit like, we were talking before, Rory Sutherland and the McDonald's screens that you go and order, and people order an extra burger because they don't have to ask for a burger and for 2 burgers in front of the buzz. Well, AI is your perfect finance friend. You can ask any question you want, and it will answer you without looking stupid, so that you can then go and challenge and have a proper discussion with your finance team. Because what I've found, and I'm sure you see the same, correct me if you don't, people are scared to ask it because people are scared to ask looking stupid. So, for example, I went to a meeting once with a very big company. They were talking about SMEs, and it didn't really strike, because what I understand by SME in my world is small, medium enterprises. Yeah, they were talking about is subject matter experts, but nobody in the meeting for 35 minutes till I put my hand up and went, are we talking about the same thing here? Wanted to look stupid. And I think that's where AI can really help business owners, but it can also help finance teams. If you've got a financial controller who's not an experienced FD, but it can help them by giving that knowledge. And and again, I know you guys have discussed this on the podcast, asking if you get the prompts right, thing as an experienced CFO, what would they look at in this case?
Yeah.
Gives you a great jumping off point. So for the first time ever, you don't have to go to Google and search around for hours and hours and hours trying to find somebody who's done your thing. You can aggregate it in one. So for me, use that time that you've automated, but don't just assume the automation is working perfectly. Check it. But use that time to then really strategically focus on your finance. Like, what happens if this goes wrong? That, to me, is the ultimate use of AI in this case. And I think it's, download ChatGPT, pay for the £20 a month, put it on your phone, and whenever you've got a question, ask it. Because the other thing is, you've got a bunch of questions then. And if you enable that feature where it can look at the different chats you've got a really great learning tool.
No question. And actually, you remind me, I was reading the thing a while ago. They've done some work with medical students, and the AI is a better teacher than the consultant. And the main reason is exactly what you just said, is that the consultant explains something to the junior doctors. If they don't understand, they might ask once. The brave ones might ask twice, but if they still don't understand, they won't ask a third time for fear of looking stupid. Whereas, of course, you can ask an AI all day. You can keep saying, explain it differently, explain it in more simple terms. So people were actually learning more from the AI because they didn't mind looking, or they didn't feel they would look stupid in front of the AI, whereas human to human, there was a certain social reticence there.
The professions have got a lot to answer for, but it's keeping jobs for the boys and girls, isn't it? It's, you don't want to talk yourself out of a job. And I'm not suggesting you could, but what it will force then, the professions, if you've outsourced your accountancy or helping, it will force them to have a proper conversation about business. And I think that's where I see AI. Eliminating the dull repetition work.
Yes.
Again, but please do check it on a regular basis just to make sure it's working. Because the one thing about a machine is it will do the same thing over and over and over again based on the parameters you've given it. Second piece then is elevating your knowledge so you can have a proper conversation. And for the first time ever, all of those tools that are available to the Googles, Alphabets, Facebooks, IBMs, whatever of this world, are now available to you for, I don't know what the ChatGPT, something, £20 a month or something. I mean,
He's of that order.
For the first time ever, that's all available to you. But you still need to know what you need to know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
Thanks for listening today. If you have any questions, please reach out via the show notes below. You can also subscribe to our supporting newsletter released with every podcast. Go to aimoment.co.uk and hit subscribe. We share more important links, run-throughs of the tools mentioned in the podcast, and more. See you next time.